Vahed's here.
Ever since I was a chick, knew I was a shit. Shawty keep wanna come round, she wanna get hit.
She say she done made me, 'cause
I've been working in UAE real estate markets since 2006, and for almost 20 years, one city dominated almost every conversation with investors: Dubai. But recently something changed. More and more experienced investors started asking me a different question. What do you think about Abu Dhabi? It was only a few conversations, then it became dozens. Today it's one of the questions I get asked most often. And that's exactly why I decided to make this video. Everyone knows Dubai's, the skyline, the luxury, the lifestyle, and the ambition. But today I want to talk about a city that I believe far more people should be paying attention to: Abu Dhabi. And I believe it could become one of the world's most important investment destinations over the next decade. Not simply because of oil, not just because it's the capital of UAE, and not because of tax, but because of something much more bigger than that's happening quietly behind the scenes. Today, some of the world's largest investment firms, hedge funds, AI companies, and family offices are increasingly choosing Abu Dhabi as a strategic base. The question isn't, is Abu Dhabi growing? The real question is, why are some of the world's smartest investors paying attention to Abu Dhabi before everyone else? Let's find out. If you ask 10 people why Abu Dhabi is becoming more important, most of them would probably give you the wrong answer. They'd say oil. And yes, oil helped build Abu Dhabi, but oil isn't the reason global capital is arriving today. What's happening today is much more bigger. Abu Dhabi is taking the wealth it created over the past decades and is investing it into industries of future: AI, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, renewable energy, financial services, infrastructure, technology, and perhaps the biggest advantage Abu Dhabi has is capital. Abu Dhabi is home to some of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds. Organizations like ADIA, Mubadala, and ADQ collectively manage well over $1.5 trillion in assets. To put that into perspective, that's more money than the annual income output of many developed countries. But here's what's really important. These institutions aren't just preserving wealth, they're investing into companies, building industries, funding innovation, and helping shape the economy of tomorrow. And when billions of dollars flow into a new industries, something predictable happens. Companies relocate, professionals move, families follow, and naturally, demand for housing grows. That's why before we even talk about real estate, we first have to understand what Abu Dhabi is really building. Because once you understand that, the property market starts making a lot more sense. Now let's put all of this into perspective. Because once you understand the numbers, you'll understand why I'm so optimistic about Abu Dhabi. One of the biggest surprises for many people is that Abu Dhabi actually has a significantly larger economy than Dubai. In 2024, Abu Dhabi's GDP reached approximately 1.2 trillion dirhams. Dubai's economy was around 443 billion. That means Abu Dhabi's economy is almost 3 times larger. But here's what makes even more interesting. For the first time in history, more than half of Abu Dhabi's economy now comes from 9 oil sectors. Think about that for a moment. More than 50%: manufacturing, financial services, technology, healthcare, construction, education, and tourism. These sectors are now driving much of Abu Dhabi's growth. That completely changes the conversation because we're no longer talking about the economy that depends on oil. We are talking about an economy that's using today's wealth to build tomorrow's industries. And that's exactly why we are seeing increasing investment in artificial intelligence, financial services, advanced manufacturing, and innovation. At the same time, Abu Dhabi's population continues to grow as professional, entrepreneurs, and international talent relocate to the Emirates. More people means greater demand for homes, schools, healthcare, retail, and infrastructure. And that's one of the most important indicators long-term investors pay attention to. This isn't just economic growth, is economic transformation. And that's exactly why I don't see Abu Dhabi as simply another property market. I see it as a city that is still writing the early chapters of its futures. Why are the world's biggest financial companies moving to Abu Dhabi? So far, we talked about Abu Dhabi's economy, its sovereign wealth, and its long-term vision. But now, let's talk about something that almost nobody explains. Did you know that over the past few years, many of the world's leading investment firms, hedge funds, and asset managers have established or expanded their presence in Abu Dhabi? And most people assume there is only one reason: tax. But in my opinion, that's only a small part of the story. The real reason is much more interesting. It starts with a place called Abu Dhabi Global Market, or simply ADGM. You've probably heard people say ADGM operates under English common law. But what does that actually mean? Let's make it simple. Imagine you're running $1 billion investment company. You're opening a new office somewhere in the world. Would the first question be, does this city have beautiful beaches? Probably not. Your first question would be, if a legal dispute happens, can I trust the legal system? That's exactly why English common law matters. Instead of relying only on a written legislation, the courts also follow legal precedents established by previous decisions. Why is that important? Because it makes legal outcomes more predictable, and predictability creates confidence. Imagine you're BlackRock, Brevan Howard, Marshall Wace, or one of the world's largest hedge funds. Would you rather operate in legal system your lawyers already understand, or spend years learning an entirely new one? For most global institutions, the answer is obvious. That's one of the reasons ADGM has become one of the fastest growing international financial centers in the region. But here's something even more important. Companies don't relocate to Abu Dhabi only because of its legal framework. They relocate because Abu Dhabi offers something very few cities in the world can offer. 3 powerful advantages all in one place. First, access to one of the world's largest pools of institutional capital through organizations like ADIA, Mubadala, and ADQ. Second, a stable, business-friendly regulatory environment with a long-term government vision. And third, a legal framework that international investors already know and trust. When those 3 things come together, they create an ecosystem that is extremely attractive for global finance. And that's exactly why we're seeing more banks, asset managers, private equity firms, venture capital funds, and hedge funds choosing Abu Dhabi. Now think about what happens next. When these firms relocate, they don't come alone. Senior executives relocate, portfolio managers relocate, lawyers relocate, technology specialists relocate, and many of them bring their families with them. That creates demand. Demand for premium offices, demand for international schools, demand for restaurants, demand for luxury retail, and of course, demand for high-quality homes. That's where real estate enters the picture. Not because somebody decided property prices should increase, but because economic growth creates real demand. And that's the difference between speculation and fundamentals. So, if that's who is moving to Abu Dhabi, the next question becomes, where are they choosing to live? Because not every community in Abu Dhabi is the same. Just like Dubai has downtown, Dubai Hills, Palm Jumeirah, and Dubai South, Abu Dhabi has multiple islands and communities built for completely different lifestyle. Let's take a look at some of the most important ones. Not every part of Abu Dhabi offers the same opportunity. Each community has been designed with a completely different purpose. And understanding those differences is just as important as understanding the numbers. Let's start with the most established luxury destination in the Middle East, Saadiyat Island. If Palm Jumeirah represents beachfront luxury in Dubai, Saadiyat Island represents cultural luxury in Abu Dhabi. White sandy beaches, championship golf courses, 5-star resorts, the Louvre Abu Dhabi, the upcoming Guggenheim Museum, world-class schools, luxury beachfront villas, some of the highest property values in the UAE. This is where most buyers aren't looking for the next opportunity. They're looking for the best address. It's a mature market with limited future supply. Now let's move to Yas Island. This is Abu Dhabi's entertainment capital, home to Formula One, Yas Marina Circuit, Ferrari World, Warner Brothers, SeaWorld Abu Dhabi, and the future Disney Theme Park Resort, Sphere, world-class hotels, shoppings, restaurants, concerts, and sporting events. More than 30 million visits are recorded across Yas Island's attractions each year, making it one of UAE's biggest tourism and entertainment destinations. That constant flow of visitors, combined with growing residential communities, create a strong long-term demand. Now, if finance is the future of Abu Dhabi, then Al Muraya Island is the financial heart. It is where you'll find ADGM, international banks, global law firms, asset managers, hedge funds, investment companies, luxury office towers. It's becoming one of the Middle East's most important financial districts. And that's exactly where Abu Dhabi's highest paid professionals spend their working days. But if there is one community that has captured my attention over the last couple of years, is this one, Hudayriyat Island. And here's why. Hudayriyat isn't trying to become another residential community. It's trying to become one of the world's greatest waterfront lifestyle destination. More than 51 million square meters of master plan development. Over 16 kilometers of coastline. Championship golf courses, luxury marinas, beach clubs, cycling tracks, waterfront villas, ultra-luxury mansions, and one of the largest man-made surf parks in the world. But what really stands out to me is the master plan. Unlike many cities that maximize density, Hudayriyat is being designed around space, lower density, larger plots, more privacy, more nature, more lifestyle. That's becoming increasingly valuable around the world. Now, does that guarantee higher prices? Of course not. No investment ever guaranteed. But when I compare today's pricing, the long-term vision, the government backing, and the quality of the master plan, I completely understand why so many long-term investors are paying attention. And of course, Hudayriyat isn't the only exciting community. Projects like Remhan Island, Jubail Island, and Fahid Island are each creating their own unique position within Abu Dhabi's luxury market, but each of those deserve a dedicated video. So after everything we discussed today, here's the question I get asked most often. Would I invest in Abu Dhabi today? My answer is definitely yes. But probably not for the reason you think. I don't invest because somebody tells me the prices are going to double. I don't invest because everyone else is buying. And I certainly don't invest based on social media headlines. I invest when I see a strong long-term fundamentals, a growing economy, a government with a clear long-term vision, world-class infrastructure, population growth, international businesses relocating, increasing tourism, limited supply in premium locations, and perhaps most importantly, a city that still has room to grow. Does that mean property prices will only go up? Of course not. No market works like that. Every real estate market goes through cycles. There are periods of rapid growth, periods of correction. Sometimes prices move sideways for years. That's completely normal. In fact, healthy corrections are part of every mature property market. But history has shown us something interesting. Cities with a strong economic fundamentals, clear government planning, and sustained population growth have consistently rewarded patient, long-term investors. And that's exactly how I look at Abu Dhabi. Not as a one-year investment, not as a two-year investment, but as a city that's building for the next 20 or 30 years. People often ask me, is Abu Dhabi the next Dubai? Honestly, I don't think that's the right question. I don't believe Abu Dhabi is trying to become Dubai. Dubai has already written one of the greatest urban success stories of the last 50 years. Abu Dhabi is writing a different story, a story built around long-term capital, innovation, AI, finance, culture, luxury lifestyle, and sustainable growth. That's why I don't compare the two cities. I see them as a complementary. Dubai continues to be one of the world's leading centers for business and tourism. Abu Dhabi is becoming a global center for institutional capital, technology, finance, and long-term strategic investment. Together, they make UAE one of the most compelling investment destinations in the world. So, where will Abu Dhabi be in the 10 years? Nobody knows. And anyone who tells you that they know exactly what will happen isn't being honest. Every investment carries risk, market change, economic change, and government policies evolve. That's simply the reality of investing. But when I step back and look at everything we discussed today, the economy, the sovereign wealth, the global financial institution, the infrastructure, the population growth, the tourism strategy, and the government's long-term vision, I believe we're still watching the early chapters of Abu Dhabi's story. And that's exactly what makes it so interesting to me. Whether you agree with me or completely disagree, I genuinely love to hear your opinion. Do you believe Abu Dhabi could become one of the world's most important investment destinations over the next decade? Let me know your comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoy this kind of deep market analysis, consider subscribing, because in my next video, I'm going to take you inside one of Abu Dhabi's most talked about master planned communities, Khudairiyat Island. I'll show you why so many investors are paying attention and whether I believe the excitement is actually justified. Until then, I'm Ali Reza Wahed. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and like the video if you enjoyed it.